Toby, which one of you guys is going to make the presentation?
Yeah, thanks for commissioners for allowing us to do this. The group is the Spokane Hospitality Coalition, and we're working in conjunction with them, the Washington Hospitality Association, on a PR effort to try to make everybody mask up and do all the right things. And what the members would like to do is just give you a quick update on what their efforts are, where they're going, and find out how we can help you in your efforts. And I think I'll just go ahead and turn it over to Mark, and then anybody else who wants to jump in, go ahead and do that. So Mark, take it away and explain what's going on, and then the commissioners can ask any questions of anybody when we're finished.
Thank you, Toby, and thank you, commissioners, for having us at your meeting today. I understand it was kind of a turnaround, and we appreciate that. Toby did a pretty good job of explaining what our mission is here. The overall idea is to get a kind of a uniform voice in this so that everybody is saying and doing the same thing. One of the things that we found, I see Chad just came on too. One of the things that we found is that there's a lot of confusion in the public. It's really quite a simple process in our minds to keep businesses open and keep that tax revenue coming in. You mask up, you keep your distance, and you wash your hands. And yet you'd be amazed at the differences in how that's received, even in our own city. When you compare Valley to downtown to North Side, everybody seems to have their own take on it. So what we're looking for is a little help here to get a message out in a uniform manner that everyone can support. Chad?
Hey guys, sorry I'm a little late to the party. I joined in a little early and realized I was in the middle of another meeting that I shouldn't have been a part of. So I apologize for my tardiness. I didn't really catch everything that Mark was saying, but you know, our biggest struggle right now is getting people to understand that this isn't about politics. This isn't about what you believe in. It's about what our businesses have to do to stay in business. And these are rules that we have to follow. We don't have the rights like people are trying to stand up and say that they have. We pay to play. And so we want to try to find a safe environment for our team, for our guests, and for ourselves so that we can continue to stay in business. Because as you know it, we're already backs against the wall. We're down well more than 50% in our sales year over year. I mean, for myself alone, I took a $40,000 loss this quarter. There's not a lot of businesses that can survive that. So how do we get people to come out and, you know, support our businesses in a safe way that doesn't feel like they're stepping onto Mars?
So help me understand a little bit. Have you had any kind of interaction with the GSI and the marketing efforts that are being done through those entities, the Inlander and a bunch of others, in support of carrying out the same message? We've already funded a pretty extensive program with them, and I'm wondering, has there been any kind of outreach or interaction between the groups?
There has. We were fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago, Chad and I did an interview with the Inlander. It was about a week after that, I believe, GSI approached us, and yeah, we're starting to get that going. You're another piece in this puzzle that we're just trying to make sure that, you know, we're doing the best job that we can to get this message out there. As Chad pointed out, I'm in no different situation financially, and I have to tell you that pretty much all the bars and restaurants in particular are in that same boat. You probably read what the Davenport put out about a week and a half ago. Everybody's in some dire straits here, you guys.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us is trying to continue to find that united front, right? And spreading the message that all the restaurants and businesses, specifically locally, are, you know, stepping up to the plate and following those standards. So we've asked, and I don't know how much you've dove into this, Mark, but we've asked the restaurants, which we've been reaching out to, and hospitality industry, to take a pledge and help support this. Because there are some restaurants and business owners out there that are saying, you will not wear a mask. We will not conform. We will stand up against this quote unquote regime. And that makes it very difficult because we have guests that come into our establishments and say, well, these people say that we don't have to. And here's a card that shows that I have a medical condition and I don't have to wear a mask and I don't have to follow the rules that are being put out by Jay Ensley, which usually when they bring up his name, it's not exactly the most polite way. And they're trying to use that as a tool for us. So I think what we're looking for is really some support from our city, from you guys, and helping us really get the message out and getting restaurants on board. And not that I want anybody fined for not doing their part in helping us get in the right direction. But if people aren't getting slapped on the hands for making these big mistakes and following the things that we all have to follow, then it just makes it difficult for all of us to continue to do our jobs. Our intent through everything is to get back open safely. You know, like we mentioned before, we're really on our last string. So how do we do that? And I think we're just reaching out to you guys and saying, hey, how can you help us? Because, you know, it's a tough time right now.
So in addition to the funding for the advertising campaign and trying to encourage everybody to wear a mask, what additional items or efforts do you see that the board should consider? What specifically are you looking for us to do to help out?
Well, you know, really quick, going off of what Chad had brought up, probably one of the biggest obstacles we all face, not just our industry, but everybody in Spokane, is the pushback. And as Chad points out, that makes it a lot tougher for everybody. Nobody wants to name names, but there's a few people that have made press over time by being the rebels. There's a lot of people in Spokane that are impacted by that. I guess what we're asking for is a bit of advice. How do we best get through that and get these people on board? If we had been pushed back into what they've been calling phase 1.5, where we would have been forced to serve outside only and not inside, I can't tell you how many places wouldn't have survived that, but I can tell you it would greatly accelerate the amount of businesses that are going to close. So we want to keep this positive. We want the community to, you know, be excited about going out and supporting us and our community. We have to find a way to convey that.
Okay. So I think all three of us have been out publicly trying to encourage people to wear the mask, follow all the protocols, and do all of that. And so I guess what I'm looking for is what else? Mary, go ahead.
So, and I guess, you know, my question is can we have another conversation with GSI, Visit Spokane, and the Inlander to say, okay, you are seeing these issues. How can we pivot that campaign to help you more? Because I think, you know, we know that, you know, we've given them dollars to do this, that's our goal. And so maybe it's going to be, you know, all groups sitting down together to say, how can we pivot? How can we make this change to make this better? Because I certainly know it's happening. I mean, I just recently got criticized and being called a communist for, you know, wanting to make sure people are doing the right thing. And so I want to get our businesses back open. I want to get our kids back to school. And the only way we can make those things happen is to be doing what we need to do to reduce the spread. So, so I think how do we make that just a little bit of a pivot that, you know, from our original presentation from the groups that did get some funding for, you know, advertising dollars to get us back, you know, get that consumer confidence back. I think if we can, you know, have you guys sit down and talk with GSI, Visit Spokane, and the Inlander, you know, all together, I think that's going to be a better way to then hopefully have us come together to make, you know, make more of a change out in the community, you know. And, you know, my district has a couple of those, you know, entities that are out there I know the health district is trying. What I keep hearing is that it's going to take the liquor control board to come in and really, hammer down on the issue for some of those places. I don't know how they're getting the information, or the liquor control board gets that information. That I don't know. I'm certainly not calling, but I don't know if citizens are calling. And so probably having that conversation and having someone from the health district as well, who's helping try to monitor that to see what we can do. But I think it's probably having, a collective group sit down together so we can really address it and figure out how to address it.
Yeah, and I think it's about, I think what you said is great. I think it's about being collective in our effort, right? So if somebody sees me on the news talking about how we all need to mask up, or Mark, or even just visit Spokane, they think it's coming from a singular place, right? Like putting their beliefs out there. We have 40 restaurants that have already committed. It's up on our website. They've agreed to, follow the rules and join the coalition so we can get back open quicker. And I think the message needs to come from the entire community that we are a community of restaurants and local businesses that are working together so that we can be back open as soon as possible and as safe as possible. It's not one individual leading the charge, it's all of us. So how do we get that message out to the community, that it's not just government and it's not just the health department stating that we have to follow these rules, it's we're working together. And I think if there's anything about Spokane that's the best part of all of it, besides how beautiful the city is that we are a community and we do work together and we value that. So the only way we're going to win with this is if we do it together.
So you had mentioned before that GSI visits Spokane and the Inlander, and coincidentally, we have worked with all three of those. Is there a reason that the newspaper and the TV stations aren't part of this effort? Toby, can you speak to that at all?
Well, yeah, Mark, I'm going to push back a little bit because they really have done a pretty good job over the last 5 months of explaining what's going on. And you look at the Spokesman Review and they've got a story every day about COVID and how people are coping with it and what needs to be done. The health district has done a remarkable job of continuing to push. But unfortunately, I think it's just a few of the bad apples. Our estimate is you got about 5% of the people out there who are making it bad for the other 95%. We do have another meeting set up with GSI. Kara's going to come in on Friday and chat with us. The Hospitality Association statewide has started a mask up campaign. We launched that last week, so that's going to go statewide. We're hopeful that people in the Spokane area will come with that. So the only other suggestion that I can have, Mark, if we want to, is that you just send out periodic news releases or build those relationships with the media and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's why it's important. And it's just going to take a little bit of time in order to do that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put it that way, Toby. And I agree. They have been covering an awful lot of that. And there's not a day that you don't look at the paper that it talks about the numbers, or you don't watch the news and it talks about the number of deaths, infections, and hospital beds. I guess what I'm trying to portray there is that it's always negative news. Fortunately, with what's been going on with GSI, Visit Spokane, and the Inlander, we've been trying to focus on the positive. For us to, I think, to have a meaningful message here that's going to make a change, people have to want to be a part of it. People have to want to go out and do things, feel safe doing that, and know that they're helping the community at the same time. I think my question was more, how do we get from reporting just the bad news and get some of the good news out there too?
Well, that's always the trick. And as a former reporter, good news is no news. So that's just kind of one of those things. But you just keep a positive attitude like we have, and then eventually things will come around, but it'll take time. And as long as there are good stories out there, then those need to be communicated. So we can brainstorm on those things and how we can push that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Jared, I see, Jared, you're in the room, because I think too, if you can push out to us the list of the people the restaurants that are already signed, that then we can push it out through our social media as well, and just be doing that, because again, like I say, for me, it's not just about getting businesses open. It's like getting kids back to school, because then that's going to allow you to have the employees you need back in your businesses as well. That's why, I keep saying schools is kind of our number one thing, because you need the employees, to have those people, their kids back in school as well. And it's so important to have those kids face to face. That's why we need to be doing this. Again, so we can help our entire community get back to where we need to be. And so I'm happy to support or promote the businesses that are doing it right, and that have committed, because I think that's, I've got friends that they don't want to go out yet. They're still doing takeout. They're just starting to get comfortable. They want to get back out there, but they want to know who's doing it right, that they can go to a restaurant and feel comfortable that it's a safe environment.
Yeah, so I hopefully what you're hearing from the board is that, yeah, we're very supportive of trying to get you guys back open and stuff. That's why we funded the campaign, and we're here to try and pursue any other kind of initiative and stuff. We all of us are in a situation we've never been in before, so a little bit of this is creating something new that we've never played with before. But I think the board is united in terms of what can we do to help get you guys open and keep you open. The roller coaster ride of opening and closing and opening and closing is got to be exhausting, not only for you and your staff, but also for your pocketbooks and stuff. So we're very empathetic with that and stuff. So, but we are not in your industry, so we don't know exactly what is the most effective tool. But whatever tools we have, we're more than willing to use to get you guys open. Josh, you were going to say something?
I was just going to ask, approximately 2 weeks ago, the health district was reporting that, based on surveys that they were doing outside of some of our region's big box stores. So, this number, I think, could potentially be slightly lower if somebody were to mask up once they get in the store. But they were reporting about a 93% mask usage at our region's big box stores. Are you seeing a similar number as far as when folks come into your restaurants, or is it lower, or what would you guys say you're seeing?
I think that it depends where you're at.
Okay.
There's always few people who try to stretch it, right? They'll try to walk into your building or business without a mask on, and then when you say that we do have a mask mandate, then a lot of them will put it on without throwing a fit. But I would say majority of them, and kind of to what was said earlier, it really is that 5 to 6% that are really the loudest people who are trying to make a mess out of the situation for whatever reason. I think that people are respecting it that want to go out and dine in a restaurant. And I think they're understanding that this is a temporary requirement of them so that they can have the luxuries that they want. I think the message that we have to continue to put out there is this is temporary. Just do it for now. We'll get back open. They don't want their luxuries taken away, which is why they're complaining about wearing a mask in the first place. But if the restaurants or the businesses that are local closed due to people not wanting to follow or go out, then all those luxuries are gone anyways, right? So, I think without really advertising the restaurants that are doing their best job, for instance, the 40 people who are on our list, that's continuing to grow daily. We're getting almost 5 to 6 new restaurants a day, is just uplifting them and saying, congratulations to these businesses that are working hard to keep things safe. That's a positive message that we could put out that might have a good impact on the hospitality industry, or any industry for that matter, whether it be salons, barbers, any of those kind of places. I think is really just talking about how they're doing their best to keep you safe. It's not political. This mask is not about who you vote for. It's about us staying open. And without the mask, we're closed.
What do you have any ideas on what you think would reach that 5 to 6% to get them to wear a mask?
That's the battle, right?
Yeah, that's the question everybody's trying
my family completely disagrees with everything I have to say, right? They think it's a muzzle. They think that it's a ploy to get a chip in our arm. Very, conspiracy driven, right? And that the virus in the election is just going to disappear. Well, we all know the virus is not disappearing, but how it's dealt with may be changed dramatically. But that's the common thing that's being said. And those individuals are the ones that are saying, I will not support a business that enforces the mask, and we will go spend our money in Idaho. Well, I think it's in the best interest for the GSI and Visit Spokane to encourage people to spend their money here, right? I mean, not that we don't want, people spending money in our sister city, but that's just kind of a childish thing to say, but it's spreading like wildfire, and those people are the loudest. So yeah, I guess I don't know how to reach those people, because it doesn't matter what information you give them, they're not going to buy it.
Josh, it's back to that 5-6% as we've been describing it. And, Chad's even dancing lightly on it too. We lose a tremendous amount of business to Idaho. And I would venture, even during the summer months, we expect that. This year, of course, it's been quite a bit more because, well, there was a saying out there just a week ago, what are you going to do this weekend? Well, I'm going to America, North Idaho. We don't have to mask up. Whatever the situation might be. I think that's going to come to a slow conclusion here just with the end of summer coming up. But that's the kind of problem, Josh, that we're faced with. And it's not just in Idaho. And it is, like Chad points out, just a small percentage. But you'd be amazed how much traction that gets. It does genuinely make it tough for the rest of us. And the dollars that are spent, of course, well, nobody's going to see that. That's gone.
Right. Okay, so you're going to be meeting with GSI and the rest of the folks later on this week, and I agree with Mary in terms of let them know what you're experiencing and see what we need to do to pivot on the message. I mean, the other challenge I know the health district is wrestling with this is how do we message to the young people, because they clearly have a sense of invincibility and they don't watch traditional TV or take the newspaper and stuff. So, how do we message to them to make sure that they are masking up and not just doing business as usual? So
I think it's definitely an effort with social media, right? I mean,
Yeah.
our younger crowd is the one that we can influence. We can't influence the people from 40 to 65. They've made their mind up. They're going to do what they do, right? So I think it's a good idea to have a campaign that really pushes that do your part. I mean, right now it's all about voting. So how do we send a message that gets them to know that it's in their hands for our future?
Well, I think Kelly Hawkins over at the health district is someone that you also need to talk to about how can you help her inform that message out of the health district, because that is a population that we are being challenged in terms of reaching out to. Mary?
Right, and I know Kelly is actually working on that right now. And so maybe Friday when you guys are meeting with Kara to loop Kelly in and Jared, our PIO, into that so that we can, provide whatever kind of support and help we can.
I'm talking to him almost every other day on our PIO meeting, so I'll broach the subject today.
Okay.
We've actually been working with Kelly on some PSAs and whatnot, so she's looped in and certainly understands what's going on and is very, very supportive. And we really appreciate everything that the commissioners have done. We understand you're in a pickle with the rest of us, so you guys have been doing a great job, and we really appreciate all the support that you've been able to give us.
But I think it's going to be important to have that collective, unified message. I mean, so I think, that's what we really have to all be clear on, so we can all be saying the same thing. So I would just encourage you to loop everybody in for the meeting.
Okay.
But thank you.
Let us know if there's anything else that we need to be doing or should be doing. But we're supportive. We're just trying to chart a course. So thanks for joining us and thanks for sharing the information.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. So next item on our agenda is Detention Services Video Court.
Grab Mike. He's in with Amacio. Please. Left Ken here all by your lonesome. Ken can solo this if he has to.
Yeah, I can do it. But here comes Mike. Give him just a moment here.
Okay. So the floor is yours, either Mike or Ken or somebody.
Okay, I'll go ahead and kick it off, and Mike can jump in. And we also have Aaron Lynn with us, who's the technical lead at Detention Services and has been working with me on this. So you guys, this isn't the first time that you've heard a request for, some kind of an expansion to support video court capabilities. I know Maggie Yates is looking into a homeless shelter solution. And in addition to that, what we're requesting today is funds to pay for 11 new network switches, which will be run up and down on both sides of the jail. And we would be enhancing what they call the wireless access points. They look like pizza boxes that hang on the wall, but essentially they give you wireless access via devices. And as of right now, we've got a big demand for video court to expand, be able to make inmates available to the courtrooms remotely during this pandemic and beyond. And in addition to that, there's a lot of other benefits. I mean, I was just thinking in my head a couple of years ago, Aaron and I were working on a project to potentially expand a capability for an officer to be able to perform their duties on a tablet or on a phone, to be able to perform cell checks and have that electronically logged. If we're able to enhance the wireless network throughout the jail with this request, we'll be able to support those types of solutions. But mainly this is about expanding the infrastructure within the jail, which right now will not support video court capabilities. Anything to add, Aaron or Mike?
Go ahead, Aaron, you go first and I'll follow up.
Oh, sure. Well, I think Ken really nailed it, right? We have a much increased demand for the capability for outside agencies or internal agencies to communicate with the inmates via video conference. And currently right now, the infrastructure is just not set up to allow the amount of bandwidth that's going to be required to carry that video and audio feed, throughout the system at the capacity that needs to be to have a strong connection to show that clearly on video and audio. The detention services staff, they had worked with the IT department a couple years back to map out the infrastructure changes needed to support POE cameras, the expansion of POE cameras throughout the jail. And this is just an extension of that. I mean, they knew that expanding the camera system wouldn't be supported on the current network. And now we're talking about also expanding to the video court or, video conference solutions. So I think this is a great idea, and it's going to be necessary if we want to move forward to have that remote access to the inmates.
And I would just add on to that too. This is part of the strategy that the courts have for reopening, is conducting some of this business on the inside of the jail to limit the amount of transports that have to come over to the jail, along with their ability to handle as much as they can virtually, rather than having the need for everybody to be in the courtrooms. Had extensive conversations with district court, and I know that Aaron has been working closely with them, particularly Judge Smith, and then also with municipal courts and some of the hearings that they'd like to take place. Superior Court, it probably will touch a few areas in Superior Court, but primarily District Court will be the one that would be using it the most. Their thought is that the offender could sit in one of the visiting booths. They could conduct their business from their desk or from their chambers, and then take care of a lot of the stuff to minimize the necessity for the exposure, possible COVID exposure of dragging folks back and forth from the jail to the courtrooms. So when we got on it, we jumped on board with it. At first, it was just insurmountable. At first, we didn't know how we'd do it. When we talked to Judge Smith, we told him right off the bat that it was going to take us a while to try to sort this out. And thank God Aaron Lynn was there to help us kind of work through some of this. But it looks like it's going to be a good strategy in order to help the courts do their reopening and conduct some of this business virtually. So that was my perspective on it too.
Lastly, I'll just throw out the ask is for $75,000 to cover the network switches. That's 11 units, licensing and support. So any questions?
Yeah, Mary?
So
Go ahead, help yourself.
I guess I'm all in favor of it because I mean, I think it's going to be important to do and important for the future. Mike, can you talk about what savings this would be to you? Because I would think that it's going to be saving you money by not having to have two officers, corrections officers having to be taking people back and forth and all of that. So I'm, you know, as much as, you know, happy to have the CARES dollars help support this, but I'm assuming that there's future savings out of this as well.
Yes, ma'am. It's definitely going to cut down on the transportation cost. We don't know the application, all the applications of it yet, so it's a little preliminary. But we'll be able to, as soon as we start using it and seeing what the needs of it are going to be and how the courts, not only court, but probation, you know, and some of the other folks start using it, I'll be able to give you a better idea in the way of if this didn't take place in this visiting booth, it would have been a transport, two officers down to the court, back X amount of time. So I'll be able to quantify that. At least that's one of the goals that I've, one of the key performance indicators that I've tasked these folks with is to keep track of that so that we know where we're getting it and how quickly it turns, repays the money essentially. So.
Okay, because I just think that's an important piece because as we're learning, COVID is not going away anytime soon. I mean, even when we have a vaccine, it's like who's all who's not. This is a long-term situation. So I think as much video for we can do, the better, as well as even for our citizens out in the public. It's going to be way better to for them for timing purposes and all of that. The more that we can video, so I would be very supportive. Was this not already part of the ask that you guys did?
This portion of it was not, because it was something that, Aaron, I'll let you talk about this too. So the infrastructure was just as important as buying the equipment. And so we're looking at the infrastructure part of it, from what I understand. Aaron, is that correct?
Yeah, so I believe what you might be referring to is that we purchased a couple of tablets with cellular capability so that we could do our pilot project. This is expanding the network infrastructure in the jail so it supports Wi-Fi so that we don't have to have that ongoing cellular service, and we wouldn't have to have individual cellular service packages for every single device throughout the jail. It would just be on our network and through the Wi-Fi. Did I understand your question correctly? Does that sound?
Yeah, no, that sounds probably correct. So,
okay.
And now that you mentioned it, Aaron, that was for proof of concept. I remember that now. So.
Correct.
And then, so Aaron, so I apologize. Do you work for the detention services or are you with IT?
I worked for the IT department for 13 or so years and then just recently moved to detention services.
Okay. So then this is all in coordination with, I see Becky's on the line, but with IT and all of that to ensure that it's all.
That's correct. So this original planning for this network upgrade was done, I believe, with Lieutenant Lehman and Barry Sadler. They had mapped out the need inside the jail to expand, and it included all of this, all of these particular devices. And then we went back to IT just recently when we saw the need and how this might, in particular, apply for CARES Act funding, and went back to talk to Sean Dimitrovich. He went to Cerium Networks and got the estimate for all of the hardware. There's kind of I asked Sean for a layperson's terms, what we're getting, and I think that's the last paragraph in the brief write-up that I supplied. And I think you should have gotten a copy of the complete estimate as well, but it's Greek to me, so I'm sure it's likely Greek to you as well. Sean's the one that really knows that, Sean and Barry.
So that's the $70,000, 69,170.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I know, Josh, we lost your signal there for a little bit, but you're back. Any you have that you want to explore?
No, I think I got the gist of what it was. Essentially give us the capability to move a lot more to virtual or digital kind of, but by video. And I think it's fantastic. I don't know, what was a dollar amount thrown out, or was that thrown out when I kind of cut out there?
Yeah, it was 69,170, so $70,000.
Okay. It's something that has sort of the potential to continue to go on, beyond COVID, but certainly help with the COVID pandemic where we're at right now. I think that I think that sounds like a bargain.
So in the makeup that was given to us on the summary, it showed that the request was for 75,000, but the documentation shows that it's around 70,000. What's the difference between the 70 and 75 other than 5,000? I figured that part out.
And I just recommended to detention services that if you were to pass it, just an up to, just in case there was some changes, and they wouldn't have to come back to you.
Okay.
Well, and Commissioner, there's no tax on that estimate that they provided, so we went ahead and put that tax in, so that bumps it to about 75 as well.
Okay. All right. So,
Commissioner, we have Jim, Mr. Coughlin.
Just from a legal standpoint, I'm not sure as to municipal court. There is authority, as Judge Smith and Mr. Farmer are talking about, for district court, but according to Larry Haskell, there's no authority to do this necessarily for Superior Court matters. And you'll recall when Maggie was here on another matter a couple weeks ago, she also said that Judge Clark, the presiding judge at Superior Court, had not given a go-ahead on that yet. So the only thing I just wanted people to know that Superior Court is at best down the road on this, if at all. That's all I can pass on.
all right. So, so now I'm in a unique position to where I've got two Joshes. So double the pleasure, right? And I'm not going to ask Aaron what he did that got him into detention. But all three of us are in support of the request, so all I need is a motion at this point.
Mr. Chair, move to approve and authorize the expenditures of up to $75,000 to pay for the of CARES dollars to pay for the technological upgrades as presented by staff for detention services.
I will second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen, for the update.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then that gets us to the juvenile detention security cameras. And Peterson, I'm assuming you're going to present on this one.
Corey, there she is.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So just as a reminder, a little bit of background, the board had already approved $100,000 for our intake area in our detention center. Basically a remodel to create a little more space for moving around. However, like a lot of construction projects, once you get into it, we realized it wasn't a matter of just being able to move some walls. We really needed to create some more space. So we went to Bruce Russell, who helped us out, gave us some drawings, and I think Gina has those, as well as a rough estimate on that. So what we're wanting to do is actually expand our intake wall out into our Sally Port. And that is where our law enforcement officers bring the youth in either with their car or walk them in through the door. And it will create that additional space for law enforcement for those to write their reports. Right now, they cut through our intake area to their office, which used to be a closet. So it is that small, it is tiny. And we even had to take up some of that space when we did all the wiring and network improvement here. So it would create their own larger space out in our Sally Port, allowing us to move where our intake officers sit for the paperwork part, and then freeing up more space for what we have, which we really need is our search area. And here at Juvenile, we do a lot of screening. So when we have the youth sitting there and our staff there, we can have law enforcement separate and then our screening staff in a larger area. So it's just about creating more space, more distancing. And the rough estimate is, that includes a 15% contingency, is close to 200,000. And in talking to Bruce, he said it will be tight. He said it will be tight, but he thinks we can get this accomplished by December 31st.
Okay, any questions for Tori?
Commissioners, I'll just make a comment. As Tori and I were going back and forth, the estimate wasn't quite there yet. What you see in your the briefing is up to 150 more. You just heard from Tori, it's going to be around 200,000. So it's up to you if you want to go all the way up to an additional 150. Tori, what I heard you say is going to be around 200. So commissioners, you may want to go up to 125 more or up to 120, maybe with just a little bit of wiggle room, just in case that 200,000 estimate goes up a little bit.
Could you go back to the map and show me exactly where those walls are? Is it the dotted lines and the one that says LE office?
Yeah, that's
what's new.
That's what will be new. And where it says intake office now, those are some walls that are being moved, because right there between the intake office and law enforcement, that is currently open. And where we have search area, that's closed.
Okay.
So that search area provides right behind the elevator there. It provides much greater space, which is where we have the people that are congregating, doing their intake duties.
Okay. And so this is COVID related.
Correct.
Because it's creating a wall between people?
It's allowing for more distancing and allowing for law enforcement not to have to be in a little tiny space right next to our officers. They get their own space there. And then in our search area creates distancing for staff and the kids when that's possible.
Okay.
So why has the estimate changed so much? I guess I'm trying to figure out, when you came to us before, you had an estimate and now it's, doubled.
Sure, no, great question. Originally, well, also we were just guessing at the 100,000. It was, and that was to move walls. That did not include where we are now expanding out, where it currently says law enforcement office. That was not there. So we were just we were being conservative and just trying to see if we could make some space, moving some walls around. And when we got into that, it was not going to give us the end goal of more space, more spacing between people. So we went to Bruce and said, okay, here's the wish list. Here's what we truly need. And so he created this for us, and then the new estimate.
Okay. So what would be the pleasure of the board?
I mean, I'm sure it's an accurate number. It's just one of the $200,000 for a room. It's a small room.
Would it help the board if we had Bruce feather this out a little more about what is involved in that cost, and either one off the board or send you an email or something? Would it make you more comfortable?
Well, I mean, I'm sure the number's accurate. I mean, okay. I'm not questioning. I trust Bruce that that's an accurate number.
Okay.
It is moving, instead of just adding that law enforcement space, it is moving other areas. That whole intake office, that is a little bit of a redesign from what we currently have.
So, and I guess, has this gone through Carrie Have you looked at it, Carrie, to ensure that it's, you know, CARES, we can use it for CARES dollars?
You guys approved, I think it was what, about 100,000 before?
Yeah, you already approved it for
You've
CARE
already
dollars.
approved 100,000 for the remodel, and I think, Tori, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was because you went back and wanted to move the space out, or why was the increase? What's the reasoning behind the increase again?
Sure, because when we went back and really went to the drawing board and looking at where we could take out walls and move walls, we just could not configure it in a way there within the existing walls to create enough distance and space.
Okay.
So going back to the drawing board, if we could push out a wall, then that would have created what we really needed. And that allowed us to move the whole intake area over, creating that space where you see it says search area.
So Commissioner, in response to your inquiry, it does, the CARES money would cover this. Again, just how long to have this done quickly to be able to address this. And that's the issue we always run up against on all of these.
Right. I guess the other thing that I request that as we have these additional requests for CARES dollars, I would like to continue to see, you know, every Monday an update as to where we're at on CARES dollars, what departments, what, you know, what areas we've spent the money in or allocated money to then know as we continue to allocate additional funds, we know where we're allocating and all of that, because otherwise it's, you know, going from 100 to 200 doesn't seem like a lot when you have a lot of CARES dollars, but when we're trying to get that out in the community and all of that, we're trying to show that we're being good stewards of that. You know, that's why I really want people to be coming to us with realistic numbers to start with, because it's harder for us then to continue to make those changes. So, and Tori, I understand, you know, you were being quick to start with, but we need to make sure that we're being very, you know, before people come to us, that it's a very thought out ask. So, because I think to me, it's not helpful to continue to have additional asks and additional asks for something we've already approved. And so I know, you know, we just did that with detention services with the hardware, you know, getting the wiring. I would prefer, and I know it can't always happen, but if we can have that, you know, thought out ahead of time before it comes to us, so that way, you know, to the public, it's like, you know, we want to do a whole project, and I want to know what that is, instead of, you know, continuing the scope creep, like that idea of the continued scope creep on everything that's coming towards us. So I would like to, you know, ask Jerry and Gary if you guys can really vet that out and make sure that we have every Monday a listing of where we're at on CARES dollars. But that's me. So I'm, you know, for making sure this project happens. But, you know, for future things, I think we really need to be intentional as to what's coming to us and know where we've already allocated and where we're going to continue to allocate.
That makes sense. And for my part, you know, let me apologize, you know, for that. I think originally not used to dreaming big when you have wish lists working for government. So, you know, it's pretty conservative originally. So, you know, that's on me. I apologize for that.
No, and we're just seeing it, you know, like I said, just
Sure.
was the same situation. And so, you know, I just want us to be very intentional, because this isn't dreaming big. This is just doing what we need to do. And so I just want to make sure that we're being careful with these dollars as well, that it's not just a pie in the sky thing, that it's intentional.
Okay, so what would be the desire of the board? You want to have additional information come back from Russell?
I think I don't think there's going to be any. I think they provide us with the information that's there, that they've got. So, what's the dollar amount then? The desired dollar amount of up to?
What, 200,000 or? How about 210? So that'd be Would that work for you, Tori? So 110,000 more?
Correct. And
If
you,
you've got your contingency in there at 15%, that should be enough cushion to make sure we don't have to come back.
yeah, Bruce did put a contingency in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Because I haven't seen it to know if taxes are included or not in that, because a lot of times estimates don't include taxes,
He
so.
does have sales tax in that.
It does have the taxes in it.
So is 100,000 more enough, or do you need 110 then?
Well, you all having more experience in this than I, he does provide in that 195, he provides a 15% contingency. Not having experience with big projects, he has it at 195, 882, which includes taxes, a design professional fees, abatement if necessary, and a $25,000 contingency. So
I think 100.
additional.
All right.
Additional
Good.
100.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve and authorize up to an additional $100,000 of CARES money for the construction of additional dollars to the previously approved intake area remodel for juvenile detention.
So I'm gonna second that, but I'll have a comment.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Discussion, Mary.
So I think, I just want to state publicly that this goes along with, again, what we're trying to do with detention services in our booking facilities are very small. And so I think having these intake areas, bigger for juvenile as well as our jail are going to be critical. So I'm happy to continue to, approve it.
Yeah, no, this, and I think also to piggyback on that, this is our continued effort again to ensure the safety and well-being of not only those in our custody but our employees. So it's unfortunate that we're facing a pandemic, but then when you are faced with that, these are the types of things that we're forced to go out and figure out to keep our community safe. So thanks for bringing this one forward to us.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that then brings us to West Plains PDA projects. This is an item.
No, we're at Becky Garrett. Al, we have Becky Garrett next.
Not on my schedule, we don't.
Okay, well, on my executive cabinet, we've got Becky, and then Carrie has a report on GSI. I apologize if my copy's different than yours.
Well, it is different than mine, but that's okay. Becky, you're up.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I will be very quick. This is really a follow-up on our a CARES request for more teleworking equipment. We actually, based on your suggestion, we went back to all departments and surveyed everyone to ask them not only how many teleworkers do you currently have working remotely, but how many do you foresee in the near future? And we surveyed all our departments, and we ended up getting a list of names from every department. And so we have a supplemental request to come to you with for an additional 107 teleworkers. So it's really encouraging. We have 477 current teleworkers today. We have a projection of 316 more, giving us a total of 793 teleworkers is what we envision. And that's what our departments are telling us. So we are asking for a bit more funding to be able to provide hardware for another 107 teleworkers. We got very advantageous pricing, and so we have down to the penny a quote for how much we need for this equipment, and it is just shy of $186,000 in additional funding.
Okay. Any questions for Becky?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Ladies first. Go for it.
Sorry.
Right.
So what equipment, additional equipment are you purchasing? Laptops and what else?
They just give it to Bruce.
It's laptops, docking stations, some additional monitors. We asked each department what they would need to have their employees at home that would make them and keep them productive at home. And these are the requests that we got. And they've all been vetted. They're all reasonable as far as what we're seeing. And we're using a price list that Tony helped us with. So again, very advantageous pricing. So this is, you know, for those employees that have jobs where dual monitors would be very helpful to have. We are purchasing a second monitor that they can use at home in addition to the laptop. So that will help them be able to be as productive as at home as they were in the office. So that was our goal here.
Okay. So one of the questions I have is having now been working from home for quite a while myself, and I just am using my laptop, that, you know, we may want to look at that for the commissioners as well, because we haven't talked about that, because this appears to be going on longer than we keep thinking. And so I'm throwing that out there, that if you're down to the penny, it's not including then if there's some additional people that may need to do that.
Well, we would be happy to, we could amend the request today just to give us a little more breather room there. And then I need to go back and see what has been submitted for your office. That I'm not sure of at this moment. But we can certainly add the commissioner's office in if they haven't already stepped up and said, this is what you need.
Okay, Josh?
My question was the 107. So those are individuals that are not currently telecommuting, but if they had the laptops, they would start telecommuting. Is that correct?
Well, it's actually more than 107. The 107 is actually the net of, we had some departments that said, okay, we're going to have people, we envision more people staying at home, but we already have some equipment that they can use. So actually there's quite a difference between the number of future teleworkers and the number of, and the equipment that we're asking for. People were, you know, they were very good about saying, oh no, we can already handle X number of employees teleworking with their existing equipment. So we heard from departments a total of 316 additional teleworkers they envision in the next few months.
That have currently not begun teleworking.
Correct. That's what they're saying. Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
And I think, yes, they're looking at, wow, if this goes on a lot longer, because when we first looked at the numbers a few months ago, we were looking at, you know, just kind of the start of the pandemic and people just hurriedly getting their people at home. But I think more departments are looking at, okay, this needs to be a long-term solution, longer term than any of us thought. And wow, I'm seeing this can really work. So we heard some very encouraging comments from departments, but they were very prudent in what they're asking for too. To their credit, they really were.
Al, may I make a suggestion that perhaps after Mary's made a good comment about the commissioners, I don't think have turned in any requests because we haven't really visited about it for those, that maybe we authorize up to $200,000, which would then cover any and all things that the commissioner office may or may not do.
You're reading my mind, Jerry. That's what I was actually going to do.
Okay.
Okay, so Josh, do it.
All right, Mr. Chair, move to approve and authorize the dispersion of up to $200,000 of CARES money for IT's technology laptop request as presented by Becky Garrett.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Let the record reflect the motion passed unanimously.
Thanks,
All
Becky.
right.
Thank you all.
So Jerry, what's next on your
We
schedule?
have Carrie has a presentation on GSI's administrative cost.
Thank you, Mr. Gimmel. Morning, commissioners. So I received late Friday, I've been in discussion with GSI since commissioners approved their funding. And, you know, with federal dollars comes great responsibility. And sometimes, you know, people that aren't used to contracting with federal funds don't know the exact costs that are going to be associated with them. So after, you know, unfortunately, they discovered that they have to have a single federal audit. Commissioner Kinney would know what the costs of that are. It's quite substantial. So I asked them to put together and ask that I could come back to the commissioners. They had only asked for $100,000 for their administration over about $11.5 million that they're overseeing. So they put together a request for me and sent it to me on Friday to ask for an additional $232,000, which would cover their legal costs, their single audit costs, the subcontract for the grant software, and for some of the administration costs for their staff costs. So really, all total, then they would have $331,000, which includes the $100,000 that you previously awarded, which is really well within the indirect cost allowable under federal grants and federal rates. So I indicated that I would ask the commissioners if you would approve an additional $232,000 to cover those costs and amend their contract.
An additional one.
No, it's 232
on top of the 100,000.
Yes, it's a total of 332,000 on the document.
So Carrie, is that that's about a 3% ask for administrative costs?
What's that, Miriam? Sorry.
Is that about 3%?
Yeah, that's about what it is. And it is all when you look at the overall
right.
contract amount. So it's well under what typically is awarded for indirect rates on any of the contracts.
Right, because a lot of times we'll see 10%, but that's why when they came to us and were saying that they were going to do it, I kept saying, are you sure that's all? It's like, there's no way you can administer that, you know, much with, you know, otherwise they're just trying to absorb all those costs. And I understand, you know, we want to try to get as much out to the community, but we also have to, you know, be cognizant that we're hiring somebody to administer that on our behalf. So I'm okay with that. I think 3% is really low. A lot of times we'll see it's allowable up to usually about 10%.
And I would agree. And I would really support their request for additional funds at this point.
Okay. Very good.
So I'm looking for
motion.
Yep. Could you state the dollar amount again? Additional 200 and what?
232, Commissioner.
232. All right. Mr. Chair, move to approve and authorize the expenditures of an additional $232,000 for Greater Spokane Incorporated to administer our small business grants program with CARES dollars as presented by Carrie Griddle.
I will second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioners.
Yeah, and I have my executive committee meeting is at noon, so I'll let them know.
Okay.
It's an important program and we need to make sure it's done correctly.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Okay. Okay, so next item, Mr. Gimmel.
West Plains PDA project. This is specifically about a really good opportunity, exciting project of numerous warehouses that everybody, Chad and the developer and Al and the county have been working on with DOT to get this project going. It involves a metered roundabout out on West Plains. And I believe, and help me with this, Chad, that all the documentation that we needed to have is either been done or is about to be done.
Yes, I think you're right, Jerry. The MD&S, Al helped us get that put together.
Get that taken care of.
And I think it's ready to roll. It's just there's a trigger in the second phase of the project that requires mitigation on the north roundabout where Geiger comes into the state highway. meter that, meter the oncoming traffic from Geiger Boulevard to allow some folks in from the state highway side. The estimate of that is anywhere from 300 to 500,000 right now until we get a really detailed estimate. The project proponents in for 200,000. So we're looking for the balance of that to be programmed.
To give you a little bit of background, as we've structured the two PDAs, the Northeast and the Northwest, as it relates to the road fund, road taxes collected within the boundary have to be spent on projects within the boundary. And so this would be one of those projects that would be funded through the road tax generated inside the boundary for the West Plains PDA. So it is a shared cost between the developer that owns the property lying east of Amazon and has scheduled to build, I think, up to 15 warehouses. They're in permitting for 2 of them now, anticipating that they'll be under construction with probably 3 and 4 next year, and build out over a 4 to 5 year period for all of the warehouses, depending upon what market conditions are. So because this is not included as part of Chad's work identified for the road department, we need to have board action to add the meter to his work project list for the West Plains, so that it can be included as part of the expenditures for the West Plains.
Perfect.
So the funding for it is coming out of the road taxes collected for the West Plains PDA, though?
Yes, yeah. So you've got a $200,000 contribution from the developer already, and depending on what the cost is, though we've heard ranges that are as low as 300 to 350 to as high as maybe 450 to 500. So that's one of the things that Chad has to do is get that actually priced out. You're exactly right. The proceeds for this come out of the road tax that's generated within the PDA boundary. So the motion that we need this morning is just to amend the work plan for the road department to include metering at the roundabout at Geiger Boulevard and State Route 902.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, Chad.
Go forth, Chad, and do great things.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll wait. We're going to go, and Mr. Macio will come back and we'll reconvene our executive session. But if I may, Mr. Chair, in the meantime, we have 2 proclamations for your consideration. One of those is in the matter of proclaiming September the 7th, 2020, National Recovery Month. I believe you've done this in the past. And the second proclamation is in the matter proclaiming the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. For next week.
But
looks like you have 2 head nods.
I see nods bobbing. I see bobbers.
I don't see Mary's head.
Mary doesn't support any of that stuff. I don't get it.
Reflect. I'm assuming we have 3 head nods. Is that right, Mary? Okay, good. All right, so go forth and do great things with the proclamations.
So the other thing I'd like to bring up while we're waiting to gather the troops is just a reminder, as we're looking at calendars, next Monday, we are scheduled for Gary's budget retreat, and that's an all-day affair, just so everybody recalls that's on your calendars. At
The board champion room.
the board room at the PFD, thank you. This is the same place we had it last time.
Yes.
When is this?
Next Monday.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
Mary and Josh will have to zoom in.
Mary and Josh, you'll have to zoom in because of the space.
Okay, never mind then. I was like, do I get to go somewhere? What?
They're
There's
very
not
nice
enough.
accommodations out there.
You know, if we had it in the arena itself, I bet
Yeah.
you we could get spacing enough that we could all be there. Might not be able to hear each other, but we could get in there.
I was gonna say, Mary and I get to go on a field trip next week. This is incredible.
You will go nowhere.
So Jerry, since I will be there in person, you have ordered up lunch, breakfast, and massage and everything else we need for that meeting?
Yes, but there's portions in there that we will cut the video off, not to hurt the other two commissioners' feelings. I know we're all into that. Yes, we've got it all lined up.
I'm good. I'm good.
Jerry, can you make sure Gina puts that on our calendars, because it's just the normal executive meetings and all of that.
Yeah, that's all it is on mine.
For next
So
week.
we need to make sure that those that we've planned get scheduled out and get scheduled on our calendars.
Yeah.
Okay, we will.
I hate to be that guy that asks the question, but if Mary and I are Zooming, why are we doing it over at the PFD and not just in the room where you guys
Oh,
are?
sure.
Because
Always
it's
one
not
in the
about
crowd.
the rest of us, Josh and Mary. I'm just,
Because how many staff you gonna have there, Gary?
4 staff.
So your staff, you and your staff.
And 3 staff
Yeah.
members.
We number enough to pretty well fill it up, so.
Okay.
To take away from distractions on site here, we discussed that.
Yeah.
And then the other issue, there's going to be a lot of, I hope, dialogue between the commissioners to give us guidance as we go forward.
There's certainly an advantage to being off-site, even if you have some of your folks Zooming. It's once the word is out with the rest of the staff that we're off-site, they have a tendency not to interrupt. I don't mean that in a bad way. They just have a tendency not to interrupt.
So can you make sure that everything is printed for Josh and I, and we have that, so we're not, because it's to me, it's actually distracting sometimes when we have everything on the screen and we can't really see, I would like to have it printed so it's actually in front of me. And, just like I picked up this morning from Jim, so I do have the updated, agenda, but I don't know, it's just getting kind of, this is continuing to go on, and we need to make sure that the people that are on Zoom have the latest updates and all of that. So, and sometimes it's, we're busy with other things leading up to these meetings that we're not looking. So, I don't know. And I will say too, on the calendar, that looking at that, so Tuesday, the COVID recovery meeting at 8 o'clock has been canceled, so that isn't there. And then is the Law and Justice meeting canceled?
Yes, it is canceled.
So, because that's still showing up on the calendar that was printed out for everybody. So
Okay.
you'll need to update that, Jerry, for Gina, so that gets updated.
Very good. We'll make sure you have hard copies. We're gonna get.
Are we planning on having a big thick binder like we did last year that was 150 pages for, of budget documents? Is that the plan for next week?
This isn't to go over budget numbers. This is to discuss your budgeting philosophies going forward. And I'll have a one-page list prepared of the topics that we'll be discussing.
Okay.
Yeah, this isn't the meeting that produces the binder or a lot of, Mary's on mute, so she can't hear us, but.
No, she can hear us. We just can't hear her.
Mary, we'll send you a one-pager. This isn't gonna be paper heavy, this particular meeting. Very good.
Sorry, I'm just my son's going off to Pullman, and so trying to be a nice mom and say goodbye.
You are a nice mom. Well, we'd all like to say goodbye. Put them on the screen.
He's like, no.
No, I'm not going to get on there.
'Cause even though they're online, I'm one of those moms that making it.
Yeah, Mary, didn't he tell you WSU is all virtual? What's he going down to Pullman for?
Because we're paying for an apartment, so it's like, go forth. Go.
Yeah, he's on his way.
Okay.
The other thing I was sensing out of the conversation about the meeting next Monday, Jerry, was that, you know, we're going to be there, but I'm assuming you're providing lunch. So maybe we need to provide Mary and Josh lunch delivered to their homes so that they don't feel left out.
Well, well, that's going to be difficult because actually, Al, I ordered a buffet that was going to be there all day. I mean, and then I don't know how we're going to do that. I guess we could have Gina just pack some up and run it to him, I suppose.
So, for the record, Josh and Mary, I tried. Okay. So, are we ready to go into executive session? Because
Yes,
I know Mary's
we got everybody here.
All right, so it's 11:47. We're going to go into executive session for approximately 5 minutes. Present will be all three commissioners plus our executive management team and a couple extra attorneys. So, we're going to be talking about pending potential litigation. And when we are done with the executive session, we will be adjourned for the morning session. So with that, we're in executive session. Go for it.